choose your hard.
Mm.
Like there's just like different, like there is no easy way to live a big life. Like if nobody's listening to your podcast if they want to live a small life, so it's choose your heart. It's like what are you going to cut out so that you can live a bigger life, and it could mean sports, it could mean Netflix, it could mean alcohol or crappy food, or just the things that aren't serving like this big vision. Like we can say we want to achieve at a high level, but are you actually doing the things? I'm in a group called C12 where the guiding principle of the group it's priorities are what we do. Everything else is just talk.
Welcome to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate Show. Whether you are an active or passive investor, we'll teach you how to scale your real estate investing business into something big.
Lars Hedenborg helps real estate agents scale their business without losing their lives. He has served over 5,000 families in his real estate career and is the creator of the Real Estate Team Builders podcast and author of ScaleOrDieBook.com. Lars, welcome to the show. But before you even say anything, tell us what just happened here just a few seconds ago.
Yeah, 2:22 and probably now 22 seconds on 2:22:22.
Man.
So, I mean, it's a rare event. I don't know how often this has happened. So we took a moment of silence to honor the even numbers of 2:22. But man, it's awesome to be on. Let me know how I can serve your audience.
Hey, man, there's 3 questions I ask every guest who comes on the show in 90 seconds or less. Can you tell me, where did you start? Where are you now? And how did you get there?
Yeah, I started from like divorce, alcoholism, no money, lower class. But I saw my mom hustle and work hard as a business owner. I adopted that mentality into corporate America, achieved at a pretty high level in corporate America, shifted into residential real estate, and figured out that I could do the kind of the work of 10 men, or I could teach 10 men how to work. And I figured out leverage and systems, and 5,000 families served on the residential real estate side. I started a coaching company in 2013. Been serving hundreds of team builders in that world. And now I'm building out something with even more leverage in a cloud-based brokerage environment. And I'm a husband and a dad, and I fail and succeed in those roles every day. So I think that's roughly 90 seconds.
Lars, man, that's absolutely fantastic. I love that. I mean, obviously don't love this, the part of this, your story, coming from a challenging background, but one, the ability to use that as a springboard into doing great things. I think so often we are told or constrained by the history behind us, right? People say, well, that's your history, so that's what you become in the future, and you've chosen to do something very different, which is always a compelling story. Talk to us then, about what your journey was inside of that, because most of us aren't born with this unique ability to go out and build great systems and build great teams. It's something we learn over time. Can you tell us that process for you?
Yeah, so I think it was mostly the mindset around it. Like I was newly married in 2006, coming off that corporate job early 2007, got into real estate just after that, left a multiple 6-figure, like super cozy, like I was leading acquisitions and strategy for an aerospace company. But then you get into real estate and you're like, instantly, like you're your own admin, you're running around town and doing like all this stuff that doesn't pay anything.
Right.
When you compare it to like, hey, at my corporate job, there was somebody that came in after we left and they emptied the garbage cans, and they, somebody would book my travel and make photocopies for me. And so just the principles of leverage at the basic level did not exist in real estate when I got into real estate. And so the game I played was, from an early on, like when I got in the industry, is like, how can I make a 7-figure income working 1,000 hours a year? And so a 40-hour work week is roughly 2,000 hours in a year with 2 weeks off. And I wanted to work 20 hours a week, but I wanted to make a 7-figure income. And it hasn't always been that, but the mindset game is that I didn't want to make the most amount of money and work, Elon Musk sort of hours, the 120, 130 hours a week and sort of, never leave the office kind of thing. I didn't want to change the world. I just wanted to change my world, my family's trajectory, because my wife came from, similar sort of meager meager start with her family background. And so it really was just a mindset around like, hey, all the things I do all day long are like, are they really the most dollar productive things I can be doing? And how could I delegate certain activities or certain outcomes or certain positions in my business, so that I can focus more time doing things that brought in more income. And just every 90 days for like, still I'm doing it. Still, I'm looking at like my passion, the things I'm passionate about and the things that pay really well. So you could spend a whole lot of your time doing things you're passionate about, but they just don't pay well. Like if you're a real estate agent and you love designing brochures for your listings, you can be like super passionate about it, but that's not highly paid. Like there's no upside in that. But new business development is one thing that you could not be passionate about, but it pays really, really well. So you don't get to give up all the activities, just the things that are low pay. And you just cycle through that every 90 days and you get 90 days to get the things off of your plate that are low pay, high passion, low pay, low passion.
I think that's a really great way to do that. And it'd be one of the challenges I think that anybody faces, whether it's in commercial real estate, whether you're a real estate agent, a commercial broker, whatever you are, is that maybe starting out of the gate, you don't have the pocketbook to necessarily pay someone else to take on those tasks. Like, well, I can't afford really to bring somebody else on to do my brochures because I'm not generating enough revenue yet, or I'm not making enough money as it is. So what do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, so I think when folks consider making that first hire, I mean, I think that's the biggest mindset shift. Actually just did a podcast with one of my members who, started as a solo agent. Last year, she sold 648 homes for 6 million top line, super profitable business. And when she was 6 years as a solo agent, she contemplated her first hire, and she only hired the administrator. She was like 24/7 for 8 hours a week. She couldn't even mentally wrap her head around like a full on, like clearly she could have instantly used probably 2 full-time administrators. So I think it's just the mindset, in our space, and it's probably similar in every space where your income is technically unlimited, but you limit yourself because you fill your hours with the tasks that, really anyone can do if you sort of lay out exactly how to do it. So I think it's just a mental game, in terms of deciding. Like I remember my first year in real estate, I netted 37 grand on like 250 gross. So I had a bad relationship with my broker. The splits were awful. And then I wasted a bunch of money, but I worked like 2,000 hours in 10 months. So my hourly wage was $18.50. And I'm like, that's awful. I left $100 an hour corporate job to get into 1850 working evenings and weekends. And so, and I committed to making 500,000 at that point, working 2,000 hours. So that was my first commitment. And that's $250 an hour. But I was literally making $18.50 an hour. And I said, if I'm going to bridge the gap, like I have to have 3 months saved to hire somebody at $20 an hour.
Right.
So we think that we have to commit to somebody for, 2,000 hours a year at $20 an hour is a $40,000 hire, but you only need to have like 8 to 10,000 saved. And then you need to quickly train that person up to take over all the administrative tasks that you're doing and put you in a position and even hold you accountable to do the highest dollar productive activities for your business, whatever your business is, to do those first in the day. New business development, lead follow-up. In any business where you have to go out and, you get to eat what you kill, it's those 2 activities. You've got to do the new business development and lead follow-up at least 4 hours a day, at least from 8 to 11, and then maybe a little bit of a break. And then 11:30 to 12:30 is lead follow-up. And that's in any sales organization.
Absolutely. I mean, that holds true in commercial real estate if you're an active investor as well. I mean, just on just the product may change, but the activities are the same. So that's absolutely intriguing. So what did you do? So you brought on your first, and I like that 3 months idea, because you're right. Most of the time we sit back and we go, that's 40, that's 60 grand a year to bring somebody on. And really what you're saying is, no, you need to free up 3 months of time. And in that 3 months of time, go out and do the highest and best use of your of your skills and talents and the things that bring in the most money, and then you'll more than pay for that person.
Yeah. And then so the next things I looked at, like what were the things that I didn't love doing that took me out of balance with my life priorities. So I had a new kid at the time, and we had a second kid in the early years, and I was newly married. And so I wanted to succeed as a husband and a dad, yet I was working with buyers. So on the residential side, in every business, there's something that you're probably not passionate about. And buyers want to go out at like on Saturday afternoons and Sunday afternoons and in the evenings when they get off work. And so I was like, I could not do this. So I had to hire someone to do that for me. And, I would have to pay him $25 an hour. So a little bit more than my assistant, but I could make, I could pay them $500 to earn a $9,000 commission check. And
Right.
they were happy earning the hourly and a little bit of bonus if we put them under contract. So whatever that looks like for folks in your space, there are just things that you think are the core business that really, when you break it down, are not the core business. Like, what's the one or two or three things you could do that will yield the biggest results? And how can you, over time, just work your way into only doing those things? And those are the guys making the most amount of money, is the folks that have positioned themselves. Like, you liken it to the surgeon, the most highly paid surgeon comes in after all of these meetings with other doctors and scrub techs and anesthesia people, and doctors making like $500,000 a year are opening up the chest of the one doctor that comes in after somebody else washes his hands, and he's making like one critical incision and then he's done. Right. And sort of a mic drop. And then people come in and suture him back up. And you want to position yourself as that guy that gets paid multiple millions of dollars per year, because he's become so lethal at the one thing. He's best in class at the one thing that's the most valuable thing in your niche.
Right. That's man, that's absolutely great. What are some ways, or what are some things system wise? So bringing in people is one thing, but people without systems is chaos. So what have you done in order to really develop and hone your systems? What do you tell people?
Yeah. So I think the mindset, I think it's more of a mindset. So a system is anything that happens in your business or in your home that happens repeatedly. And like, so let's take an example that, so getting your lawn to go short every time it grows long. So the system for that is you need to go buy a lawnmower. You need to like get the gasoline and the certain kind of oil and make sure the blade is sharp and start it up on Saturdays and then mow it. And then you need to get the edger and then fertilizer. And like, so there's a whole system that is required to have like carpet like lawn. So that's my desired result of lawn. And I could for sure implement that entire system, but there are people that really enjoy doing it. It's a blessing to allow them to do it. And I don't have to think about it. And I can just do other things. I can enjoy my family, or I can have some downtime, or so a system is anything that happens like, so let's say you need to call on new business. So what's the most valuable part of like, of that activity is like the actual conversation, right? But the system might include like, you need to get a list of people to call. You need to get some technology, a single line dialer. You need to maximize your talk time. You need to be really good at your scripts. And so, I would figure out the system where I would just operate in the one thing that mattered. And where other people are coming in at 8:00 in the morning, they don't have their call lists ready. They didn't hire a VA in another country that could stay up all night and do the work to get me ready to be in the position to do the surgical cut, at 8:00 in the morning. Right. And so that's another example of a system. Or like whatever, a sales presentation. If you don't have a sales presentation that anyone can run, then like you'll always be the one doing it. So what's your system for selling as well?
Right. Man, that's absolutely great. And then inside of that system, we've talked a little bit about leveraging other people. We've talked about systems. And then once you get a few people and some systems in place, then those have to grow to teams, right?
Yeah. And so that's usually the scariest part for folks. It's one thing to hire like a VA or a local assistant. But then it's another thing to sort of teach others, like at some point, if you get good enough and you delegate enough of the admin side of it, you're going to be working like 10 men.
Right.
And then it's making the decision to teach 10 men how to work. And so, the year we did our most sales, I worked the least amount of days. We sold 412 homes and I worked 42 days, so it literally was like, I wasn't afraid of, I could buy my time back with, some of it with marketing dollars. Like you can buy business or become a really good marketer, but you can have other people making the calls, other people showing the houses. So whatever the 3 to 5 things are that you do in the business, coaching and leading and managing people is probably the highest paid skill set that there is in business. And so, you could do the every bit of it, or, you could be the guy cutting the lawns, or you can be the guy that owns, 10 crews that are cutting, 300 lawns a week. I'd rather be the guy that figured out, like, I started out cutting lawns, but now I'm running a whole bunch of crews and it's all diversified and it's all optimized. And then they know which way to go from house to house, because all the turns are optimized. And there's a whole system around every business. So I just love that part of business.
Man, that's fantastic. And then I guess, the last thing that I'd love to talk about is just detaching your income from the amount of time that you put in. And I think all of these build up to that. Is that right?
Yeah. And so that's where, like, I think you need to predetermine, you need to run 2 calculations, and this is a good time. Any time of year is a good time of year to do it. But I just take my adjusted gross income, from my tax return. And I literally go back in my calendar and I get a pretty good estimate of the hours that I've worked. So you have an actual number of where you're at. Let's say you're at $75 an hour. Let's say you made 150 grand and you worked a 40-hour work week. That's 150 grand divided by 2,000 hours, $75 an hour. And your goal is to go to $150 an hour. So you want to keep the 2,000 hours, but you want to go from 150 to 300. It literally starts there. So if you're making $75 an hour, that means you're doing some tasks that are $25 an hour and some tasks that are $125 per hour. And just stop doing the $25 an hour tasks and hire someone to do those tasks. It's going to free up your time. Some of that time you can give back to your family or to yourself. But most of us are hard chargers. If we're in business for ourselves, we're probably going to give them back to the business. And you just got to commit to giving them back to the things that are $250, $500, $1,000, $5,000 an hour. So in your business, there's probably bigger checks than in the residential side. Like if you could eliminate all of the stuff, all of the menial tasks in your business, we have a $10,000 commission check, but you may have like a 100,000 or 500,000 or a million or whatever. Like, so, this is like times 100, in your world.
It really is. And it's intriguing because the principles are the same. And regardless of who you are, I haven't talked to many people who have gotten it right the first time, right? It's like this is a constant process of going back through and going, okay, what are my time sucks? What are my financial sucks? And then what are the things that both I love doing and produce a revenue that's meaningful to me and the people in my life? So what does that look like? And that's true, I think, for any whether in residential, whether you're in commercial, it doesn't matter. So I think the principles here have been absolutely fantastic. Thank you for taking the time to break those down. Is there any other pieces of advice or anything that comes to mind as you think about this? You said, man, this is super important, and I feel like people need to hear this.
No, I think it kind of comes off of the last podcast I just recorded, but it's a concept that's not new, but it's choose your hard. Like there's just like different, like there is no easy way to live a big life. Like if nobody's listening to your podcast if they want to live a small life, so it's choose your heart. It's like, what are you going to cut out so that you can live a bigger life? And it could mean sports. It could mean Netflix. It could mean alcohol or crappy food, or, just the things that aren't serving like this big vision. Like we can say we want to achieve at a high level, but are you actually doing the things? I'm in a group called C12 where the guiding principle of the group its priorities are what we do. Everything else is just talk.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really think about that, like you can go around saying like, yeah, I want to be an awesome husband, an awesome dad. I want to be great in business. I want to be like connected to my creator. And then it's like, yeah, but you watch like 6 hours of like Netflix a day. Like you're lying. Like, stop it. Like, just watch the Netflix and stop saying you want to achieve. Right. So I think that's it. I think it's choose your heart.
Man, I love that. Lars, thank you for coming on today and taking the time to share with us. Certainly appreciate it. Love what you've done and what you've built. If our listeners want to get in touch with you and learn more about you, what is the best way to do that?
Yeah, I would say the best way these days, you can connect with me, all my social media links there. It's partnerwithlars.com. So partnerwithlars.com. That's what I'm up to most recently. And like, you can connect with me on Facebook or my YouTube channel or connect the podcast. My most recent episode of the podcast is on there as well.
Awesome. Lars, thank you again for your time today. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, all right, brother.